Right now, News 8 at 6 changing their mind. Why local school districts ultimately decided not to support a new mental health facility in the Quad Cities.
Life lessons and something that gave her some sort of comfort.
Special connection, how the roots of the Reagans can be traced back to our area in Galesburg.
Live from WQAD, News 8 at 6 starts now.
Good evening, I'm Jim Mertens.
And I'm Denise Sinitka. Thank you for joining us tonight. News 8 has learned that plans to bring a new psychiatric hospital to the Quad Cities may have been dealt a blow after several schools dropped their support.
A regulatory panel voted 2-2 last month, putting a stop to Tennessee-based Strategic Behavioral Health's plan to build a $14 million psychiatric hospital in Bettendorf. Local hospitals, Genesis Health and Unity Point Health Trinity, both opposed the certificate of need the company needed from the state to start construction. Plans initially got a boost after local school districts backed the proposal in August of last year, but at the start of this year, the school districts retracted their support. What changed? New details tonight from News 8's Elizabeth Wattis, who explains how local hospitals could have something to do with the last-minute change of heart.
This vacant land in Bettendorf is where an out-of-state business, Strategic Behavioral Health, wants to build a 72 inpatient bed psychiatric hospital.
What is clear and conspicuous is the need for a much more vibrant panel of services in the mental health arena.
Pleasant Valley School Superintendent Jim Spellog is one of several superintendents who supported the project. Back in August 2015, these letters in favor of Strategic were sent by Spellog along with Davenport and North Scott schools, saying this new hospital will help fill a critical void in the community. But after a meeting in January with Genesis that included local school leaders, those letters of support were rescinded.
We questioned whether or not we were in a position of sufficient expertise to be able to say this is the best solution versus over here is the best solution.
Genesis officials say they held the meeting to remind school leaders of the plan Genesis says they already have in place to fill the community's void in mental health services.
People weren't paying attention to the issue. You know, it's not an everyday concern for people. They just weren't conscious of what was happening while it was happening. There's really nothing mysterious about it.
School leaders say they will be watching closely to see if, in fact, local hospitals come through with their promises of expansion. And if nothing is done,
if that's the case, perhaps the position of the school districts may take on a little different tone.
But for now, the vacant land will stay unoccupied, at least for another 6 months. In Bettendorf, Elizabeth Wattis, WQAD News 8.
Genesis officials say the Davenport superintendent was not part of the meeting at the end of January and that Dr. Art Tate came to this decision after a different meeting.
The state of Iowa is opening up new opportunities for medical students studying psychiatry.
We have about 1,500 medical students in our state, but because we don't have enough residency programs, a lot of them do their residency out of state and they get job opportunities and unfortunately don't come back.
Right now, Iowa is nearly last in the nation for the ratio of psychiatrists to patients. The new mental health residency program will create up to 10 new psychiatric residence programs every year for the next 3 years. The programs are coming to 3 hospitals in Des Moines. The nation is looking back at the life of Nancy Reagan. The former First Lady died Sunday at the age of 94.
Galesburg shares a special connection with Ronald and Nancy Reagan. Separated by a decade, they each lived in Galesburg as children. New tonight at 6, News 8's John David shows how small-town values helped shape a future first family.
If walls could talk, the house at 219 Walnut Avenue would have lots to say.
Well, the first time she arrived in Galesburg, there was a walk-in dollhouse for her.
Future First Lady Nancy Reagan spent summers and holidays in Galesburg with her grandparents.
It was a lot of fun for her. She had a lot of friends.
Young Nancy used to spend lots of time here at the long vacant Nelson's Confectionery. That's where she'd go through this door to enjoy lots of ice cream and candy.
Nancy running around the neighborhood and being a typical 8, 9, 10-year-old.
About a decade earlier, young Ronald Reagan lived in this house on Kellogg Street. He learned to read at nearby Silas Willard School.
The way you would walk to school was probably the same way he walked to school.
This report card reveals the grades of an outstanding student. Although Ronald and Nancy each faced challenges during childhood, their time in Galesburg seems almost golden.
Life lessons and something that gave her some sort of comfort.
And those lessons built character to last a lifetime.
And to think that prior residents of this area helped shape those people, that's kind of exciting. And it shows those good Midwestern values that they carried to the highest office of the lands.
Well, Ronald and Nancy Reagan never knew each other in Galesburg. They never forgot their time there.
The fact that they were both here, I think, is kind of unique.
It is bittersweet. What a gracious lady.
A first lady who remembered Galesburg with love. John David, WQAD News 8.
You can retrace the Reagan steps in Galesburg. All you have to do is stop at the Galesburg Area Convention and Tourism Bureau and pick up a map. You'll find it just off Main Street exit on Interstate 74.
Some local workers are out of a job tonight after a Moline restaurant abruptly shut its doors. Ryan's Family Steakhouse on John Deere Road in Moline posted a sign yesterday saying it was closed for inventory. Well, today, workers received letters it shut down for good. Last month, the company that owns Ryan's closed 74 other restaurants. Workers say they would have liked more notice.
I actually have enough money saved for my rent for next month, but if I don't find another job by then, I don't know what'll happen. I just don't know. All I can do is hope and pray that I find something soon.
Workers were told that they will receive their last paycheck soon.
Illinois Attorney General Lisa Madigan says student borrowers dealing with mounting debt is a new addition to her annual list of top 10 consumer complaints.
Last year we saw over 1,500 complaints from students, and so that ended up ranking 7th in our list. These complaints reflect the very significant and troubling issues in our higher education field today.
Madigan released her list today, kicking off National Consumer Protection Week. She says consumer debt and identity theft were ranked numbers 1 and 2 for the 8th year in a row. Other complaints included telemarketers, construction, used vehicle sales, and internet or mail order products. Madigan's office says it received more than 25,000 complaints last year.
Well, what do you say about a day like today other than bravo?
We're like 2 months ahead.
Right?
Schedule. Unbelievable numbers to start off the work week, that is for sure. Mid-upper 60s. We even had temperatures right around 70 degrees, like in Muscatine, Washington, Mount Pleasant, Burlington, Macomb, you got as high as 71. These are the warmest temperatures so far of the year. In fact, got as warm as 69 degrees over in the Quad Cities, currently 64. And by the way, we've been doing that with more clouds than any real break of sunshine around the area, and really no wet weather either, except for the early morning hours. A light east-southeast wind at 7 miles an hour. Not much as far as any wet weather that we see. I would say with the exception of a passing sprinkle, I think we're looking dry until tomorrow morning, and there'll be more chances ahead. That's for sure after that little wave. I'll tell you how long those chances will last and how much we'll end up with coming up in just a few minutes. Denise?
Thanks, James. A huge day for the Illini football program. Lovie Smith taking over that program at the University of Illinois.
That coaching vacancy sure didn't last long. News 8's Corey Kuffler live in Champaign with more on today's big announcement. What's going on?
You're right, Jim. That didn't last long at all. Cubit fired on Saturday. Lovie Smith hired just a couple days later. It's a new beginning here for the University of Illinois as they do hire Lovie Smith as the next football coach. And around campus, excitement is all around with signs welcoming in Lovie Smith. The new football shirts with the saying, "We will win," have been a hot commodity. Lovie was on campus today talking with students because he knows just how important they are to making this turnaround happen. And the students we talked with feel he will get the job done.
It means a lot. It seems that we actually have some leadership and a coach that's tried and experienced, somebody who's been to a Super Bowl. And, you know, taking somebody from the NFL really gives us some hope and some inspiration for what we can look forward to in the future. And on top of that, we have recruits that will want to come here. And that's been kind of the biggest problem, is there's not really been a big name to come to this school. So to have somebody that people know and recognize, even people off the street that don't watch football, that's a big thing to me, and I think it's a big thing for this campus.
As far as Tampa Bay,
Now coming up at a little bit later at 6 during sports, we will hear from Lovie Smith and find out just how he plans on turning around this football program. But for now, live in Champaign, Corey Kuffler, WQAD News 8 Sports.
Hey, Corey, I got to ask you one quick question. When Lovie Smith took over the Bears, he said his prime thing was to beat the Packers. What did he say today in Illinois? Is he going to beat the Badgers? Is he going to beat Iowa, Michigan? What's his prime nemesis?
He obviously wants to win a Big Ten championship, but the first thing he said, he wants the kids to get a degree, and he wants to win football games. Those are the two things that he mentioned that he wants to do and accomplish while he's here at the University of Illinois.
All right, what a class act. Thanks, Corey. We look forward to seeing you a little later on this newscast. Still ahead at 6, a rapper and a police chief join forces.
The message they're trying to get across to young people in Iowa.
You're watching WQAD News 8 at 6 with Jim Mertens and Tamisa Nitka.